Have you ever faced something bigger than yourself? Something so heavy you felt powerless inside? Maybe a problem, a fear, a dream too far? These are the giants in our lives. The Bible tells us about one giant. His name was Goliath, a warrior of Philistines. He was huge, tall, covered in shining armor. Every man feared him. Every soldier stepped back. But the hero of this story was not big, not powerful, not experienced, not even a soldier. The hero was David, a young shepherd boy. He was small, simple, but filled with faith. David's victory over Goliath is famous worldwide. It is more than just an old story. It is a lesson for every human heart. Faith and courage can overcome impossible situations. Today we will walk through this battle. We will see how fear controlled a nation. We will see how courage rose from nowhere. We will see how faith turned weakness to victory. But most importantly, we will learn for ourselves. Because you and I also face Goliaths. Your Goliath may not be a giant man. It may be failure, shame, rejection, or doubt. Maybe your Goliath is fear of speaking English. Maybe it is pressure from family or society. Maybe it is a dream that feels unreachable. But like David, you can also win. First, let's set the scene for this story. The Israelites and the Philistines were enemies. Their armies faced each other across a valley. Neither side wanted to begin the full war. So Goliath stepped forward as their champion. He challenged Israel every morning and evening. "Send me a man to fight me," he roared. "If he wins, we will serve you. If I win, you must serve us." Day after day, the same challenge continued. 40 days passed, but no man came. The soldiers were afraid. The king was silent. Hope seemed lost, and fear filled the camp. But then came David, carrying food for brothers. He was not supposed to fight that day. He was only visiting, only delivering supplies. But God had another plan for him. David heard the giant shouting against Israel. He heard the insults against God's people. And something inside David became strong and bold. He asked, "Who is this man mocking God?" Others laughed at him. "You are too young, too weak, too small. Go back home, take care of the sheep." But David refused to stay silent. This is where our journey begins. This is where we meet David's courage. This is where faith steps onto the battlefield. David looked at the soldiers, shaking with fear. He looked at Goliath, tall as a mountain. But his heart did not tremble or hide. He said, "I will fight this giant today." The soldiers laughed. They thought it was a joke. "Fight him? You? You are only a boy. You have no armor, no training, no sword." But David's face was serious, his eyes clear. He went to King Saul, the leader of Israel. He said, "Do not be afraid of Goliath. Let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will fight this Philistine today." Saul looked at David and shook his head. "You are too young, too inexperienced, too weak. This man has been fighting since his youth." But David stood tall and began to speak. He said, "I am a shepherd of sheep. When lions came, I killed them with courage. When bears attacked, I fought and saved the lambs. The Lord delivered me from their claws. If God saved me from lion and bear, he will also save me from this Philistine." David's words were not empty. They carried faith, courage, and fire. Saul finally agreed. He had no choice. No soldier was brave enough to step forward. So Saul gave David his royal armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head. He gave him a heavy sword and shield. David tried to walk but could not move. The armor was too heavy for his body. The sword was too big for his hands. He shook his head and returned the armor. "I cannot fight like this," David said. "I have not tested these weapons before. I will fight in my own way." So David took only his shepherd's staff. He went to the river and chose 5 stones. He placed them in his small leather bag, and in his hand he held a sling. Imagine the scene now: a giant warrior covered in iron armor, a small shepherd boy with stones and sling. The difference was impossible, almost laughable, but David's strength was not in weapons. It was not in armor or human power. His strength was in his faith in God. He knew God was greater than the giant. David walked toward the battlefield. The soldiers whispered, "He will surely die." Even his brothers turned their faces away, but David's steps were steady, strong, and calm. As he moved closer, Goliath noticed him. The giant laughed loudly, mocking Israel's choice. "Am I a dog, that you come with sticks?" He cursed David by the names of his gods. "Come to me," Goliath roared with anger. "I will feed your flesh to the birds." The Philistine army shouted with excitement, but David did not tremble or turn back. He shouted back with a strong, clear voice, "You come to me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the Lord. The God of Israel will give me victory. Today the whole world will know this truth. The battle is the Lord's, not man's. He will give you into our hands." And with that, David ran toward the giant. The soldiers gasped. The battlefield went silent. Every eye was on this small shepherd boy. Every heart wondered, can he really win? The moment of destiny had arrived at last. David ran forward, sling in his hand. The ground shook as Goliath marched closer. The giant's armor shined under the hot sun. His shield-bearer walked before him, proud and strong. The Philistines laughed and shouted with joy, "Look at the boy, he will be crushed." But the soldiers of Israel held their breath. They waited to see if God would act. David stopped, reached into his shepherd's bag. He picked one smooth stone from inside. He placed it carefully into his sling. He began to swing it round and round. The air whistled with each circle of the sling. David's eyes were steady, focused on the giant. He prayed silently, "Lord, guide this stone today." Then, with one quick motion, he released it. The stone flew fast, faster than an arrow. It cut through the air with deadly speed. The soldiers on both sides watched in silence. Would the stone strike, or would it miss? The stone hit Goliath on his forehead. The impact was loud, like thunder striking rock. The giant's eyes opened wide in shock. His body shook, then fell face down. The earth trembled as Goliath crashed to the ground. The mighty warrior who mocked God was silent. The Philistines gasped in fear and disbelief. The Israelites shouted with joy and victory. David stood over the fallen giant. He had no sword of his own, so he pulled Goliath's massive sword out. With one strike, he ended the battle. Silence filled the battlefield for a moment. Then the Philistines turned and ran away. Fear spread like fire through their army. They had seen their strongest warrior fall. The Israelites ran forward, shouting with courage. They chased the Philistines out of the valley. Victory belonged to Israel against all odds, but the true victory belonged to the Lord. David stood with the sling still in hand. He looked at the soldiers, then at the sky. He whispered, "It was not me, but God." The people shouted his name in celebration. This moment changed everything for David's life. The boy became a hero of Israel. The shepherd became the warrior chosen by God. His faith turned fear into unstoppable courage. The battle was over, but the lessons remained. David did not just win with a stone. He won with faith, courage, and trust in God. And these lessons are still alive today. Lesson 1. Faith is stronger than fear. Goliath was tall, powerful, and terrifying. Every soldier in Israel saw his size. But David saw something else, God's power. When you face challenges, remember David's faith. Fear will shrink when faith becomes bigger. Lesson 2. Small steps bring great victories. David did not start with Goliath immediately. He first fought lions and bears as shepherd. Those smaller battles prepared him for bigger ones. Your daily struggles are training for your future. No effort is wasted when God is with you. Lesson 3. Use the tools you have. David had no sword, no heavy armor, but he had a sling and 5 stones. God used what David already carried with him. You don't need everything to begin. Start with what you have right now. Lesson 4. Speak courage into your life. David declared victory before the battle began. He said, "The Lord will deliver you." His words shaped his mindset and his courage. Be careful with the words you speak daily. Your voice can build fear or build faith. Lesson 5. Giants can fall. Goliath looked impossible to defeat that day, but one stone brought him down to silence. Your giants may look different: fear, failure, doubt. But with faith, even the biggest giants fall. Now let's apply these lessons to our life. Maybe your Goliath is a personal struggle. Maybe it's financial problems. Maybe deep sadness. Maybe it's the feeling of not being enough. But like David, you can stand with courage. Remember, David was young, small, and unknown, but God used him to change Israel's history. You don't need to be famous or strong. You just need faith, courage, and a willing heart. When life feels heavy, think about David's stone. It looked simple, but it carried great power, because it was guided by God's hand. Your actions, though small, can carry great power. Never underestimate what God can do through you. One step of faith can change everything forever. One prayer, one act of courage, one decision. That may be your stone against the giant. And now let's end with a reflection. Think about your life right at this moment. What giant stands in your way today? What fear, what failure, what struggle feels impossible? Write it down. Name your giant with honesty. Then write the stone you will use. Maybe your stone is prayer every morning. Maybe your stone is forgiving someone you hate. Maybe your stone is taking a small step. Whatever it is, use it with courage. And remember, the giant does not define you. The battle does not define you either. Your faith and courage define who you are. Like David, you can rise above your fear. Outro. You have heard the story of David today. Not just a story from history, but life. A story of faith, courage, and transformation. A reminder that with God, nothing is impossible. If this story touched your heart, share it. Maybe someone you know needs this lesson now. Write in the comments, What giant are you facing? Your words may give courage to another person. And if you want more stories like this, subscribe to Top English Stories for daily lessons. Here, your English grows and your faith grows. Together, we walk the journey of learning and hope. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Always remember, giants fall, faith rises, God wins. Even in your hardest battles, you are not alone. Stand strong, believe, trust, and keep moving forward.